Who are you?
I'm Sagar Ramesh. I'm a senior in the animation program here at the USC School of Cinematic Arts. And today I'm going to be showing you around the MXR studio at USC.
So we're here in Los Angeles, or near Los Angeles, and this is just a small part of the cinematic school.
That's
here,
right? Yeah.
And so tell me the significance of this lab, this one specific room.
Sure. So this is the MXR studio, which is sort of distinct from the MXR lab at Playa Vista.
Okay.
So this is where a lot of student projects that sort of revolve around VR, AR happen. So a lot of student groups come in for different meetings, different exhibitions. Like a few students here are working on a lot of different projects that are going on simultaneously. So each station you'll have Vives, you'll have Rifts. We have equipment for projection mapping, basically anything related to immersive media.
Sorry.
Do you want some water?
No, I'm fine.
Okay, cool. And that's basically what the MXR studio sort of stands for now. So there are a few labs on this floor specifically. This entire building is dedicated to interactive media and games. So a lot of the students and student projects here sort of revolve within that sphere, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what's the bleeding edge? What is it like to be a student in this age? Because my thesis is in a few years that a lot of people are walking around wearing glasses, right? That can do augmented reality or virtual reality.
Right.
And so you're learning the bleeding edge of that craft and of that genre of media.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, the cool thing about being a student, especially at USC, is that there are so many people who are interested in this intersection of art and technology. So people coming in from the engineering school, from cinematic arts, from the fine arts department, basically everyone who's coming to labs like this come in with just a little bit of an interest, even if they don't have the skill set needed to actually build a full project. But they can find the people that they need and the resources that they need to actually bring something to life. So a lot of the projects that my friends and I have worked on for the past couple of years, we basically did by just figuring out the steps as we go. So, people come from all these different backgrounds, and we just kind of figure out how to use a game engine like Unity or a game engine like Unreal just to bring these projects to life. So being a student now is super exciting because all the resources you hear, the professors are here. It's just a matter of sort of putting yourself out there and pursuing a project that you really enjoy, and then the rest sort of unfolds really naturally.
Yesterday we visited Intel, which has a big dome for doing volumetric capture, a lot of green screen around it, right?
Yeah.
And we talked about the bleeding edge of entertainment in movies and how 85% of movies now are built on a green screen, using a computer, right? Tell me what it's like right now as a student. What kinds of skills are you learning coming out of it? Because you're just about to graduate and come into the industry, right? So what kind of skills do you have that maybe kids didn't have 4 years ago?
Yeah, and Ollie can speak to this as well. He's a friend, he's a collaborator, and he's working on his own set of projects at the MXR studio.
Yeah.
But I think the ability to just sort of think creatively and be able to learn new tools on the fly, because so much is changing, especially in the field of immersive media and immersive technology. I think that's probably the most important thing to pick up just as a student who's starting out. The tools that we use today might not exist tomorrow. The applications that we use might change really drastically. And because the field is so early, just being able to pick up new skills and be open to that change feels like the best way to move forward as a student.
Yeah. And what are you building? What's your project coming out of this?
So today we'll talk a little bit about Ollie, which is a 3D animation tool that's designed for absolute beginners. So the thing is, when you watch a movie like Spider-Verse or Wreck-It Ralph and you walk out of that theater going, man, I don't know how they put those images together or how they make those movies, a lot of it sort of comes down to building with professional software that's made for people who've been trained in animation, people who know what they've been doing and have been trained in the field for maybe 10, 15 years. If you're a kid who watches one of those movies and walks out of that theater with even the slightest interest of making something like that, there's really no good way to get started with 3D animation. With movie editing or anything else, you have, say, iMovie compared to something like Premiere, or you have Swift playgrounds before you jump into building your own project with code from scratch. And Ollie is basically the iMovie of 3D animation.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, let's see it.
Awesome. So we have a demo set up back here.
Yay. This is cool. Got a lot of different VR headsets.
That's right. Literally every station you see, you'll have a Rift attached.
I'm joining you now.
Hi.
Hi, it's Irena.
Irena is the CEO of Infinite Retina. And, yeah.
Awesome.
It's just thinking about how storytelling is about to change. I mean, I'm carrying around a 360 camera. I used to have a guy who had 2 or 3 cameras, big on tripods, and had to aim them. Right, this camera you don't even aim anymore.
Yeah.
Hey Ryan, why don't you come over here because you could be our test subject.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you're actually the guy who's going to be using animation. Well, he built a whole village in Tiny Town, and he plays with Minecraft and
Awesome,
Fortnite and
Very
all
cool.
that.
So maybe the best way. So actually, I can show you guys something that people built with Ollie just a couple days ago. So we were at 2-Bit Circus running demos. We met Robert there as well, but you didn't get to try it when we were actually demoing. So people ended up, we started sending out maybe 10 or 15 movies that people had built within the app and exported. So the cool thing about Ollie is that we've built a virtual camera that sort of exists in VR where you can export videos to share with people outside of the headset.
Okay.
So not many people have access to a Rift, access to a Vive,
Right.
and the cool thing about exporting in that way is that people can view it on mobile, people can view it on web, so you can share your work that you make in the app with friends outside of it. So maybe the best way to do this is for me to just give you a quick overview of what the app has, what makes it different from existing apps like Quill or Tavori or Tiltbrush, and just a quick introduction of sort of what you'll be able to see once you're inside. So one of the first things that you'll notice is the interface is super, super simple. We don't use any sort of jargon like keyframes or like having something as simple as a timeline with a really simple playback system that kind of resembles something like Spotify or Apple Music. Makes it really easy to move forward and backward in time. And we start with a limit of 5 seconds, but if you keep moving, you can actually go beyond it. So we have this sort of infinite timeline that people can use to create. So on each of these tabs, you'll be able to see little models that you can actually pick up, you can drop in your scene. You can use both hands to scale them up and down. You can place them anywhere. And if you were to move forward in time, say we move to maybe like 1.5 seconds, and we pick this object up, we can actually see where it used to be.
Yeah,
we can see the motion path of where it used to be, where it's going, and all we have to do is hit play to actually see it move. So something you'll notice is that there's a little bit of...
It's like Tiny Town, but it moves.
Yeah. So something you'll notice is that the object actually stretches just a little bit when it gets to the middle of that motion path, and then sort of settles back in. So this is actually a principle of animation called squash and stretch that makes animated content feel a lot more elastic. So we're actually adding that automatically. So we're using math to actually create this effect. That would usually take a professional artist, a lot of time and a lot of previous training to actually do really well. So that's what makes Ollie really special.
Is this available in Oculus Store right now? Or?
Right now we're in beta.
Okay.
So we're testing the app. We're making sure that we're actually building something people really want. And then it'll be up for free on Steam, Oculus, and the Epic Games Store this summer, actually.
Very cool.
So the cool thing about how Ollie's organized is that we just boil down animation to the absolute basics. So we're using the same technical infrastructure that a really complicated animation program would use, but we make it really easy to say light your scene, or change something as simple as like the lighting of like how your models look, and then once you're ready, you can actually add different image filters to change the look of your entire scene. So it's pretty phenomenal how much people can create in just a matter of minutes. And that's what we've been sort of telling people about Ollie. At the end of the day, it's all about just making movies in minutes, and that's something a lot of 3D animation tools can't say now. So when you're done, the cool thing about this is you can pull up your virtual camera, so you can scale it up and down just like any other object in your scene, and you can also animate it just like any other object. So let's say I move on my timeline until my ship reaches its endpoint, and I move my camera over. If you'll notice the camera preview, you can actually see what my camera sees. And whenever I'm ready, I can save that video out. And that's the full flow of how Ollie works. Let's say if I have animated objects that I don't like, I can just get rid of them with my eraser. You can just grab it and then let it go. And then I have other objects that I can still play around with that are in my scene. And that basically boils down to basics of how Ollie works and why we do what we do.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I kind of want to try now.
You want to try it?
Let him
Awesome.
try it.
Yeah, of
he's
course.
really good with control. So
Very cool. So
Yeah.
the cool thing about this is we've made sure that the app is designed so that none of the controls are mapped to any of the buttons. So any primary control is actually just using the trigger and just using your hand moving around.
that's good.
We wanted to make this as simple as possible, not just for beginners in animation,
Yeah.
but for beginners in VR too.
Right.
So it works really seamlessly
That's great.
on the Oculus Rift, on HTC Vive, and any Windows mixed reality headset.
Yeah.
How do you move around?
So you can actually just walk around right now. So you have a spaceship in front of you. You have a little asteroid on your left.
Can't
Yeah,
reach
you gotta walk over to reach it.
Got it.
Boom. So you can put that anywhere in your scene, and then whenever you're ready, you can move forward in time a little bit.
How do you move it? Make it move?
Yeah. So right now you're at the very first, or you're at the very beginning of your timeline. If you grab that little ball next to 0, yeah, just move forward maybe 5 seconds, and then move your spaceship somewhere else.
Bam.
Oh man, you made it crash. So now if you hit play, you see the little play button, just bump into it. Right there, yeah. And now when the timeline starts over, when it loops, you'll see your spaceship move.
That's funny. That's funny. Wow.
Yeah.
I want to try that again. Oh. Wait, I want
You have to program it again.
to...
Yeah.
It's heavy.
Yeah, if you hit pause, then you'll be able to move it around a little bit more.
Oh.
Actually, if you do me a favor and just use the eraser to get rid of it, just grab it. Yeah, boom. I think your spaceship still crashed over on your right.
Right there.
There you
There you
go.
go.
So now
Okay,
if you go to the second tab, right under the home tab, and you just hover over it and click, there you go. You can pull in spaceships, you can pull in pirate ships.
Does it go
You've
down?
got a set of cars too.
Does it go down? It doesn't go down.
Oh, you have to pick one.
Yeah, you gotta just
Oh,
grab one off the
it's
menu,
just
just like
whichever
the
one you want.
eraser. There you go. And then just let it go.
How do you make it bigger?
Once you let it go, you can use 2 hands, just the way that you thought. There you go.
Okay. This one?
Yep.
Home.
Awesome.
Okay. So now I'm gonna make it like that,
Mm-hmm.
and then woo! There. See what happens. Oh, it doesn't shake. It just
Yeah, you're right. Maybe something that we can add is a way for it to figure out how your controller moves, so then you can
That's
actually add that shake
exactly.
to the spaceship.
That would be really, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great suggestion. So now whenever you're ready, you can actually add different lights to your scene
I want to
too.
make a car.
Yeah, I love the cars. So once you drop it in, you can put it on the ground, you can move it around, you can make it fly.
That's cool. How long did this take to make?
There you go.
So we started experimenting with this idea of what animation might look like in VR around this time last year, so last spring. But we really only started development on the app last September. So we brought a team together, all from different backgrounds, from the engineering school, from animation, from the Ivy and Young Academy. And we all came together, we figured out what we wanted to build, we came up with a sort of mood that we wanted to go for, and this is what we have a couple months later. Yeah.
Okay, it doesn't like me. The meteor.
So this is the joy of actually being able to demo Ollie to people who've never animated before. You know,
Yeah.
showing people something like Maya or,
Wish
you
I
know, just a 3D program that's just made for professionals.
Yeah.
You don't get this kind of excitement, or you don't get this
Yeah,
kind of
do
joy.
That's your light, you see?
Yeah, I like
And then you could make it different colors.
You can make it different colors.
Maybe.
There you go.
Oof, it's gonna be a fiery orange, and I'm gonna go here.
Now, Ryan has a little advantage over a lot of people in that he has entire towns built in Tiny Town,
He's already
which
manipulated
works
objects.
just like this, except he doesn't animate. So now you're just adding animation on top of
That's right.
objects.
I mean, the cool thing about VR is that you
Yeah.
automatically have a really intuitive sense of 3 dimensions. Because
Yeah.
you're just picking objects up like you would in the real world. So we wanted to add an extra layer of satisfaction to that by tracking how your objects
Cool.
move over time. And that just makes everything feel a lot more dynamic and lively.
There
Wow.
it goes. Look at that.
It's really cool.
Great stuff. If you grab any of those asteroids around the spaceship, you can make them crash in, and you can move them around
It
too.
doesn't like to move.
Yeah, I think you just have to get out of play mode. That's something that we're
because
fixing
you're-
right now.
Yeah, you're the other one. There you
Yeah.
go.
What was the hardest thing in building this?
So a lot of the features that we built are actually original inventions. So the squash and stretch feature, for instance, basically emulates something an artist would do by hand, and there aren't really functions that exist out there that allow models to squash and stretch really naturally. So it took a lot of finessing on our end, a lot of research to see how animation had been done traditionally to basically emulate that with math and with code. So coming up with effects like that were really unique and just a unique challenge for us. Our virtual camera is really special as well because we actually built our entire exporting pipeline from scratch. So even though it looks really unintimidating in the app, there's a lot of technical work that sort of went into the ability to export videos in a really clean way from the app.
Yeah, that's the light. You just made the light.
This is cool.
Wait a second.
Yeah.
Wait, where's the light? I think what happened to the light?
Tell me about what else other
Wait, just-
people are doing here at USC that
Oh, maybe
caught
I
your
should
eye.
visit
Sure.
I
So
think it's
some of the
invisible.
most exciting projects in the MXR lab also include a project called Amaz Memento, which sort of revolves around Awu's grandmother in Taiwan. So the entire installation that'll be demoed this May sort of revolves around her story as a Taiwanese art collector. And it's a multimedia installation that goes from physical photographs, projection mapping, VR, AR, all of which is combined into just a full walkthrough that lasts about 30 to 45 minutes. And a team of us actually went to Taiwan 2 years ago to document her life using a 360 camera, much like this one. And now we're in the process, or the team is in the process of putting together all of that footage, making sure that it tells a really coherent narrative. And I think what makes it really special is it isn't using VR just for the sake of saying it's a VR project.
Yeah.
It's using it because it just makes sense. Experiencing her life and her story in 360 degrees is some of the most.
Yeah.
It's just a really special way to.
Any
experience
tips
history.
do you have for new photographers who are going to get 360 cameras? Like how to capture the world to tell a good story?
The best person to talk to about this would be Ollie. He's handled a 360 camera way more than any other student that I know. But I'd say it's a really great time to get started.
One thing I've had to relearn is you don't aim these cameras; you just hold them.
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
choose.
Yeah.
You choose how close. Like if I want to get close to Ryan, I move it closer to Ryan, right? And then I have to be aware of seam lines.
Right.
Where would the seam line be? But the algorithms keep the steadiness, right? It knows where the horizons are.
Yeah,
and it's pretty amazing technology.
We actually had a project just a couple months ago called Race Relay that we shot on an Insta360, and we demoed that at the California African American Museum for about 55 people at once. So you can just imagine 55 people in Gear VRs, all wearing headphones, all experiencing the same thing simultaneously, and all of it was shot in a camera just like this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of technology in these cameras. The guys who are building this camera came out to my house and talked to me about how they take sensor readings, live sensor readings, right? Because it knows where it's moving in space, right? And then it is also using computer vision to look for features in the room to figure out where the horizon is.
Yeah.
And it's mixing those two in real time and then moving the ball of pixels around. So that it's steady, because even though I can shake this pretty violently, it doesn't really. The image stays pretty stable.
And you have a live preview on your phone too, right?
I do, yeah. That's what I was looking at my phone for, right? So it's down here, right? Yeah.
And the image quality is it's stellar too.
Well, it's compressed a little bit during live shooting,
But
so
once
it
it's
doesn't.
exported,
It's 5K, so it's pretty good. Once it gets on Facebook or YouTube, it gets cut down a little bit, but not too bad. It's better than, my first camera was $6,000. This is $400. So,
right. It's cool.
a lot easier to hold too.
For sure.
But now you can, get a scene like this, and people can decide where to, do you watch Ryan playing? Do you watch the screen? Do you listen to us? Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's just like you're here in the room, right? And it's pretty amazing
So I'm wondering about the different scenarios. So
Yeah.
what other beginner scenarios do you have in this?
Yeah, that's a great question. So
Yeah.
actually, during our demo tomorrow, we'll
Yeah.
have 3 different scenes that
Okay.
actually align with the models that you see there.
Yeah.
So right now, you're in the space scene.
Yeah.
So a lot of the spaceships on that bottom row of the inventory fit
Right.
perfectly.
Yeah.
We have a little island
Ooh, I
that
want to
align
go to
with
that
the.
one. How do you do that one?
We don't have it in yet, but it'll be there tomorrow if you guys swing by.
What are the other two?
So the other 2 are there's the island
Yeah.
with all the pirate ships.
Right.
So it sort of looks like a little oasis that you can actually move the ships around.
Okay.
And the
Yeah, there's
very
a bunch of
first one,
boats.
there's a bunch
Yeah.
of boats. The very first one is actually just a little
With
racetrack.
cars. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Those very cool looking cars.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the cool thing about our inventory actually is that we try to feature an artist every time we roll out a new beta build. So this time we used models from Kenny. Before
Yeah, of
we've
course.
used models from Google Poly from specific artists that we've
Right.
actually curated ourselves.
Yeah.
And
That one's
that's
supposed
something that I
to go.
think not a lot of apps out there actually do. So we value artists a lot, and we want to make sure that people are using tools like this to actually create and tell really good stories.
Within their vision.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
And some of the most exciting way that
This
we
is my
know to actually
favorite one.
highlight
Right
artists'
here is
work.
my favorite one. It just gets bigger and then it just slaps you. Wait, watch this. Gets bigger and then just slaps you.
That's because you put those controls in. Did that. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Ryan's going to have a lot of fun with you, too.
Fight! Oh. And then it just disappears. Look, watch it. It just goes into hyperspace.
That's awesome.
I think that's a glitch. It just goes into hyperspace.
I mean, I guess it's not a glitch if you made it.
No, we put in controls where it did stuff like that, so he doesn't realize that that's what it
Awesome.
made it do.
Cool.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, if people are just making silly little GIFs with Ollie,
Yeah.
that's all the satisfaction we need because
Oh no,
it's not meant to be. It's not meant to be. A
Well, no,
serious
he'll
tool.
build a whole world and tell stories. One thing
Yeah.
I learned by watching him play with Tiny Town, he builds scenes in his head that aren't animated, right?
Right.
So he has like a UFO on the top of a church that goes. I mean, he has the whole story already built in his head.
Yep.
About what he wants to build, but he can't animate it this way. So it's going to be fun to watch
Whoa, what is that?
him learn this. And then over time, as these kinds of tools get more and more and more photorealistic, because right now you're playing with a polygon budget, I would
Right.
guess, right?
Yeah.
You don't have very many polygons. You want to make sure that this will work on a pair of glasses, or right?
That's
You
right.
You're
Yeah,
starting
yeah.
to think ahead.
Of course.
Apple's going to have mobile-based GPU, a small little GPU that can't handle very many polygons.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And this only gets better from
yeah,
here, right? It's
an
only,
Oculus Quest, right?
Yeah,
You know?
that's right. I mean, that already cuts down on a lot of the compute power because everything's self-contained.
Yeah.
So even the stuff that runs so seamlessly on the Rift might not run as optimally on the Quest.
Yeah.
So, these are just things that developers like myself, my friends, everyone who's sort of working in the VR AR space right now, just have to learn, have to deal with. But that's the exciting part of working with cutting edge hardware.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, when people were doing Flight Simulator for the first time, they could only draw a
This
few
one
lines
just
on the screen,
goes?
right?
That's right. Yeah.
You're starting your career a lot more advanced than that.
Yeah.
Wait, guys,
So
watch
imagine-
this. This one just goes and gets bigger on the way. My favorite one is the boat.
Nice. That's one of my favorites too. Awesome.
I
Lot
wonder
of fun.
if I can crash the game or something.
You should try.
You got to put 100,000 cars out and see if it'll handle that many polygons.
That's right.
I'm putting a bunch of boats.
This is what makes building something like Ollie really satisfying. Just having people go in, make their own little stories, just play around just for fun, and
Yeah, it's hard. One reason I didn't try to see it at 2-bit circuits is it takes. You can see he's been in there 15 minutes already, or
Yeah.
20 minutes, and it takes time to get your head around the fact that it's not just Beat Saber, right?
Right.
Beat Saber, you can get a 5-minute demo and get a pretty good idea of what Beat Saber is.
Mm-hmm.
This, you need to
Guys,
play
look, an
around for 20,
explosion
30
is happening
minutes
right here.
to really understand how deep the tool
Oh my God.
goes, or how far you could push it as a storyteller, right? Where does it go? And what is it, 4?
Totally.
Right? A 9-year-old figures that out pretty fast, but us old people need a little bit more time.
Yeah.
Wait, look at this big car run above me.
All right, I'm going to turn off the camera. Thanks so much. Where are we going to learn more about this? When it's
So
out?
right now, if you visit our website at ollievr.com, OLLIEVR.com, you can actually download our beta for free.
Okay.
You can read about us in Cartoon Brew and Animation Magazine, both of which covered what we're doing with Ollie and a film that we're making with it to basically showcase what the tool can do. All of that is available online, and the app itself runs on Windows MR headsets, HTC Vives, and Oculus Rifts.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Quest coming soon?
Quest coming soon.
Yay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks.